Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. The spotter said it was clear. I wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened. And then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. And so, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. It's Brian here with Rob and Ashley once again. And it's Bristol week. Folks, how we all doing?
Pretty good. I guess I'm the only one not going to the racetrack, so I've got a very serious case of FOMO happening here. But, I'll hear all about it through you guys. That's for sure. How you doing, Truelove? You all packed up and ready to go?
I am not. My room looks like my closet exploded all over it. There's just shit everywhere. I'm exhausted. I'm running on like 2% battery right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I feel that. I got back from Charlotte Monday night at like midnight to the airport and got back to my house at like 1, and I haven't stopped moving since, so it'll be low energy tonight. By the way, thanks to everyone who tuned in last week. We had Matthew Dillner and Kyle Armstrong on, and pretty big bump in listenership as a result of those two coming on here, and so thanks for them again for being on the show. And if you've come back this week, thanks for returning. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we don't lose you this week. So
No promises.
No promises. Oh, man. So, I know you guys are going to Bristol this weekend. That's exciting. But, of course, Watkins Glen was this past weekend. I thought it was a great weekend, to be honest. I didn't watch the ARCA race, which is tradition. Did you guys watch that?
No.
I had it on, but I didn't watch. I mean, there was not much to watch because Connor Zilic won by like 11 seconds or something.
Yeah.
So
Not quite what he won by in the Xfinity race, but not a shock either.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Xfinity race, assuming we all watched that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's... I think we were all going into this race, like we kind of had an idea Connor was going to be good. Obviously, I don't think anybody expected him to be as good as he actually was, but what we were really all hoping for was a showdown between him and SVG, and unfortunately it never really happened because there was a lot of shit going on in that race, a lot of bad racing, like a lot of Xfinity races have. Including just a horrible final lap that
embarrassing.
Yeah, it took a fucking hour. Just to get the same damn result. Yeah, it's just I mean, my brother-in-law and I sat down, and my wife and my sister-in-law were ready to leave the house. We're like, all right, well, I kind of laughed when I said it, and I was like, all right, there's 2 more laps left, and we'll be out of here, full well knowing that's not what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we sat around for at least another half hour, and it's like, what, fuck this, let's get out of the house. And then they still didn't get it started for another few minutes, so yeah, just pretty classic. Hate that's how these races end now. It seems like every fucking week. That's just how it goes. But whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, Connor put a real ass whooping on the field and even had to come back from tail end of the pack at one point because he had a pit road penalty, I believe.
Sailing through the bus stop behind Ty Gibbs and whoever the fuck else that was.
Yeah, that was a very weird. Yeah, very weird thing that 2 of those guys should have known what they were doing. Connor, I guess, gets a pass for fucking that up, but very odd. But Ty didn't have a great finish. I think he blew up or something towards the end of the race, and I don't know where SPG was. I feel like he got in the top 10 somewhere. But
he finished 5th after everyone else ping-ponged him to outer space.
Yeah.
Everyone was like losing their minds fighting for second place because they were all convinced that Connor was going to run out of gas. So they thought they were battling for the lead, and it was just...
Which, by the way, I don't know how the hell he was able to save gas while keeping a 6-second lead, but he did it. So
he was just that fast, I guess.
Absolutely
he didn't have to try
insane.
that hard.
Yeah, how good he is.
But speaking of the battle for second place, The first place, second place driver, my favorite, Sheldon Creed, pretty much like lucked into his second place, more or less. He got past all the calamity, and you know, he was running decent all day. Like it's not like he was in the back the whole time.
It's top 10.
Just continuing his run to a Matt Crafton championship. I hope he finishes like fourth
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what
last
I
race
want.
and wins the title. I want that so bad.
I don't know how the hell he ended up in second, to be honest with you. Again, like we left the house and we were cruising up to the Concord Mills.
He just that first big turn that everybody got into each other, you know, turn one there. He was able to just sneak around, and as everybody was fighting behind him in the S's, he just drove away, and then everybody wrecked behind him. So that was it.
Yeah, the race ended. I was watching it on my phone since we were out of the house, and I looked down, and my brother was like, "Who won?" I was like, "Well, Zilich won," and then I just started laughing because it was just no way this was possible for Sheldon Creed to just materialize in second place, but he did. And yeah, he's now my championship pick, and he's gonna finish second in fucking Phoenix too. You watch.
Let's hope. Now, Rob, the note here. Oh, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say that my favorite little moment from the Xfinity race was that big wreck that happened where that one car poured fluids all over the fucking track, and that's what took forever.
Oh, Anthony Alfredo, yeah.
He really.
Yeah, well, he had, in that wreck, his hood had buckled up really bad.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying to drive with his hood buckled up. That's a tongue twister for me. And he just drove straight into a fucking wall. It was.
I guess his spotter guided him into it.
Yeah.
Well.
And he was just like, "Why the fuck did you do that?" It's a pretty funny radio exchange out there on Twitter, but yeah, that was ridiculous.
Speaking of funny radio exchanges, I did not pick AJ Allmendinger in any of my lineups on Sunday because he was such a little piss baby on Saturday, like bitching about his car. He's like, "We're not gonna fucking win. Let's just race for points." Like, and I don't know where he ended up finishing, but he was just, I don't know what was going on with him.
Yeah, I think he finished third after he tried to wreck his teammate SVG a few times on that last lap.
I mean, those Colin cars just have not been as good on the road courses this year, so I can understand his frustration. And I guess he's so upset they sent him back to Cup because he's so pissed about it.
And I like AJ too, so I don't want to shit on him too bad, but it was definitely entertaining having him on the radio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not having a good time.
Angry little man.
But, Rob, so we got to talk about this note here. So you mentioned the carrot ads. Now you've apparently never seen these, huh? Because maybe I think this new one with the carrot, like these crooked dick commercials have been going on for a good year or so now. Like this is not a new thing, but this carrot one is new. Like this one is bent carrot. Like, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen this before, and I was sitting there, watching this with my family, and I felt embarrassed. I saw the word penis on the screen. I was like, oh, excuse me, what the fuck is this about? Because my first thought was like, well, if there's any drug that has a side effect that involves penis, I'm probably not going to take it. But sure enough, it's just that shot of the carrot like bending from its
so
crooked position into the straight.
I'm more concerned with what's wrong with that carrot. You shouldn't be eating that carrot.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what the disease is called. But Pyrenees, who fucking cares?
Close enough.
My question is, if you take too much of it, does it go crooked the other direction? You just go too far with it.
Well, the side effects were like, I think one of them was like penile fracture. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how does that happen? So,
it's just spray foam. That doesn't need to be on television, but I can't wait for it to be on Austin Dillon's car since they seem to slap a lot of random pharmaceuticals on that thing. So
giant crooked carrot on his hood.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, I've never seen that before. I don't know if I just have missed it because usually I'll go do something else during commercials, or I'm just not paying attention, or I'm texting you guys. But yeah, didn't want that the first time to see that ad to be sitting there with my family and my 3-year-old nephew, and just it felt.
Hey, maybe that ad was informative for somebody else in your family. Maybe they needed to hear that.
I fucking hope not. I really hope not, for their sake. But Good Lord. Yeah. So that's new to me. Yeah. I can't wait for the car though. It's got to happen at some point.
We'll see. They've pumped enough money into NASCAR ads the last year or so maybe they'll put it on the car.
I guess that's the target audience now.
Me and Brian will look for the booth at Bristol.
It's next to the Zen tent.
Oh man.
They offer free tests in the back.
Yeah, well, that has to happen now.
Cup race that happened.
There was a cup race that happened, and unlike Saturday, SVG did have a much better showing, although he fucked up. Like it's the man that we all thought was infallible on road courses fucked up big time and lost it to Texas's own Chris Buescher. Real red-blooded American victory that I know all the Patriots on social media were very excited about.
Please rise and remove cover for that move. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this: like he did fuck it up and he lost the rear end, but he also was one of the only guys who could have probably saved it the way he did.
Oh, for sure.
He almost had another shot at Buescher, but
yeah. I mean, his car control is insane, and he should have wrecked 2 or 3 times in those last couple turns. I mean, it was definitely it was overall a good race. Like I definitely was not quite as bad as chaotic, although it had its moments, compared to Saturday.
Pretty chaotic.
Yeah,
especially for playoff drivers.
Yeah, about 10th,
for sure.
10th on back, it was 3 wide for a lot of that, which you can't do at Watkins Glen. Also, they put those rumble strips off in the runoff of 1, and that just didn't seem to bother anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, how can we forget? Lap one. Corey LaJoy, on his way to another top 10 finish, yet still somehow finishing behind his 2 teammates.
I was just gonna bring that up.
started the race by wrecking Kyle Busch, and that in turn messed up Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, who both were able to continue. But Blaney also. Yeah, he broke a steering column or something to that effect.
Yeah, took out half the damn playoff field, lap 1.
Yep.
Top tier driver.
Larson was in that. He didn't get hit, but he was definitely hindered by it.
He's right there at it. Yeah.
So he had to drive like an asshole for the rest of the day. And he managed to get himself up to 12th, which I'm amazed because they were stuck back there pretty much all day. Hamlin had a pretty cool move coming off of 1 and tried to take it 3 wide with Larson and was it Keselowski?
Yes, Keselowski.
Because him and Larson were like. Keselowski had Larson pinned just about as low as you could, and then Larson still managed to try and find a lane under there. And this happened for several laps, and it was awesome television. And then Denny was just like, well, I guess I'll take the top, and that didn't work. So, but Hamlin wrecked like 2 or 3 times?
A couple times, but that's...
Twice.
Yeah.
He still managed to finish 20... something in the top 25,
but still outside of the playoff picture, which I guess we'll get to that a little bit later here in the show. But man, I said it to you guys earlier today. I thought Hamlin was going to choke, but I didn't think it'd be in the round.
It's all round of 16.
Brian says it's my fault, so now I really wish I'd picked Larson as my champion pick.
Yeah, well, he's doing his own good job of keeping it nervous for me.
Being mediocre, yeah.
And meanwhile, Austin Cindric is like in the top 8 at this point, which is wild to think about. Like,
he's third in the playoff standings.
Third. Flores is up there. Yeah. It's a very bizarre top 4.
Ridiculous.
Both Bowman and Reddick didn't have great days, which was a bummer. I think Reddick got involved in some incident in the middle of the race, and that kind of fucked his day up because he was fast in practice, but. That last lap, it definitely was not as good as 2012 Keselowski and Ambrose, but Lee Diffie did a good job of tying those 2 events together. You had an Aussie versus an American. You had the Roush car, technically still a Roush car, battling the Australia. Well, vice versa this time around, but really cool last lap. And Buescher is quietly one of the better road course guys, and this was his first victory. And it was really nice to see after him, when you think about his year so far, he didn't make the playoffs. He had those 2 heartbreak losses at Kansas and the thing with Darlington with Reddick, and to see him have like the exact opposite thing happen this time around and get that victory. I mean, as much as it would have been cool to see SPG get another win, he's going to get more. And good for Buescher. I like Buescher a lot, and
Same.
it was good to see him.
Yeah, I like to see that too, and I like to see the Roush guys turn it around and be a winning team again. And I was surprised that Buescher didn't get a win this year either. Like after last year, it seems like he had arrived, and it just didn't come to him this year. And kind of like Bubba last year or 2 years ago, it's kind of the same deal. It had pace here and there, and just didn't get it done until it was too late.
I think even going into this race, he has like one of the best average finishes in the entire series, yet he still wasn't in the playoff.
Yeah, super consistent. But
yeah,
I always like a good Chris Buescher win. So I hope he gets some time out in the side-by-side in Prosper, Texas, wherever the fuck he lives, chasing armadillos around and whatever he does for fun. I hope he gets to do a lot of it this week before they get to Bristol, another place that he rips at. So,
yep. I saw him win there a couple years ago.
Nice.
So.
You ready to see Hamlin win this weekend?
I saw him win there last year, so.
Well, Andy Newsom's going to be burning sage and starting a cancer charity to get this thing done. Because you guys don't remember earlier in the season, of course, I know you're going camping with Andy, and we'll get into that later, or elaborate on that later. But Andy seems to be Denny Hamlin's good luck charm, and it seems like he ain't gone to the racetrack in a little while. So he's going to need all the Andy Newsom he can get. And anytime Andy does a good deed at the racetrack, of course, that means Hamlin wins. So yeah, he's going to be fucking Mother Teresa down there all weekend, healing the sick and blind and shit. So, yeah, put a stop to it.
If you don't need any miracles performed or favors, you're going to be at the track.
Water to wine, anything, yeah.
Yeah.
That's your man.
Mm-hmm. There were a few little things after the race, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We had host of ours say the word gonads in his interview.
Yeah, shout out to Carson, but he got third, I think.
He got third, yep. Zane fifth. LaJoy eighth somehow.
Yeah. I mean, he's running top 10 all day, so, I mean, it's cool to see them execute.
How the fuck was he in the top 10 all day? I don't understand.
Spire just figured out how to be good all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I went to their shop this weekend, and it's the old KBM shop, and it's pro as fucking there. You can tell they spend a lot of money, I can tell you. Yeah. So, yeah, they're doing something right now. Again, too little too late, I guess, for the playoffs, but, man, I bet you Michael McDowell's feeling pretty good about going over that 71 next year.
So we might as well talk about this before we get into your race shop trips. So let's talk a little bit about the silly season stuff, since that was part of my notes. So first off, we have Ty Norris leaving Trackhouse suddenly and potentially going to Colleague. Don't know what that's about. Ty's got kind of a weird checkered past with working with Dale Earnhardt and the stuff that happened with Michael Waltrip.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's don't really know what's going on there, but
yeah,
I got some news on that today. That he is going to Colleague.
Oh.
And he's going to be their chief business officer. So he'll be in charge of like looking for sponsors and business partners to take that load off of Chris.
No kidding.
So.
Interesting.
all right.
But apparently he's going to be staying in Nashville.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, I guess that is where Trackhouse is technically based. At least the corporate end of it. So interesting. I hadn't heard that. I just heard there was a potential connection to Colleague. So you hear it here first.
I'm not even sure if I was supposed to share that, but I did. So I'm sorry.
No one listens to this. It's
No one's listening.
Say whatever you want.
That's not as juicy of a tidbit as like drive or anything. So
yeah. But Ty was definitely a big figure in the formation of that team. I think he had the same title over at Trackhouse. So that is. Again, it's boring news, but it's certainly notable, and that's a big pickup for Colleague, no question.
Mm-hmm. Today, Bubba Wallace announced he re-signed with 2311, which I don't think anybody's surprised about, other than the fact that, with all the charter stuff going on, he talked about in the media last week how it's affecting his future because, with everything up in the air,
his boss won't fucking sign the contract.
Yeah, so who knows if that means anything for the charter agreement stuff. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. But, glad to hear Bubba's not going anywhere. He's definitely, even though he hasn't won, he's had a fairly good season as far as he's concerned. So
he made the playoffs.
What's that?
He made the playoffs. No, he didn't make the playoffs.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Almost made the playoffs.
Yes, almost made the playoffs.
Almost.
And then we've got Parker Kligerman announced he's going to be retiring from full-time competition, and Nick Sanchez is moving up to the 48 car in 2025, which isn't a real surprise.
Rob's favorite driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love him, but I also like how much of a little dickhead he is at times. So
Yeah.
I kind of respect that.
I
But,
thought it was funny when he got his ass whooped by Matt Crafton jumping out behind the tires like a cartoon character, but, you know, I suppose we'll see more of that next year.
yep.
Fight somebody his own age.
Now, one thing I wanted to talk about as part of the silly season stuff is there was an article on The Athletic last week that talked about some of the cup rumors that have been going around. It started off with talking about basically a ride swap between Justin Haley and Corey LaJoie, but also it was mentioned that Corey could potentially be going to a quote-unquote championship-winning Truck Series team, which right there, I mean, you know, I don't know if that means maybe Matt Crafton's retiring. He's going to Thor Sport. Who the fuck knows?
Send him out to Ohio. Put him out there.
Yeah. No, please don't. I don't know. Please don't. Please don't.
Corey and Brien can get bunk beds. So
It's
they're
true. Yeah.
Fuck off.
And Brien is, of course, the #1 distributor of Corey LaJoie merchandise in the greater Ohio area. So, yeah, it all makes sense.
No comment.
You heard it here first, folks.
Nope. Wouldn't be a shock to see Haley. I mean, he's been rumored to go to a couple top tier teams.
Every fucking car in the garage that guy's been
Pretty
tied
much.
to this year.
It
We heard
seems like-
2311 earlier this year. We'd heard Roush. We've heard all sorts of shit about that guy. And this
Well,
is,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
well, the Roush thing, even for himself, I mean, he kind of talked about how he took the Rick Ware ride because
Yeah.
it was a stepping stone to Roush. So, yeah, but also Spires definitely got their shit together and would also be a good team, and he would more or less be the leader there. Well, no, I was gonna say Michael McDowell, I guess, would technically be the most experienced out of the three of them, but either way, that'd be a pretty solid lineup. And now here's one that I don't know how we all didn't see this coming. Zane Smith to front row, which makes complete sense when you think about it, because he was at front row in the Truck Series. He left there because there was no room for him in Cup, and that's why he went to Trackhouse. So now there's no room for him at Trackhouse, so now he's going back to front row where there is room for him.
Well,
so
that was the original plan. Like when silly seasons first started coming out and SHR announced their shutdown, Zane was definitely one of the front runners to take over one of those cars.
Yeah.
So I guess the musical chairs have ended him back up where he started. So I'd be happy to see that again. Front row's doing pretty good for themselves now too. So that's not a bad move by any means. And stays in the Cup Series.
He's definitely shown a lot of improvement the last handful of weeks. He's on a streak of good finishes, and while I don't think he's the most entertaining personality wise, I mean he's a good driver. So I mean, why the hell not? He should definitely be staying in Cup.
I thought it was interesting that McDowell chose to yell at him a bunch after the race when he's going to that ride next year.
That's right.
And banging, like, slamming doors with the car after the race because he was pissed off. So.
Scratched his paint.
Well, again, let's not forget that McDowell's had his run-ins with plenty of drivers after races and got his ass handed to him by Daniel Suarez at one point.
That was fucking killer when he choke slammed him on pit road. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess Zane knocked his Bible off the dash or something. I didn't think it was that bad. Like, I mean, Zane was doing some Truck Series shit out there. Like, he was blocking Larson like it was.
I love that.
Indy. That was
every lap. I loved it.
Fucking insane. Any other racing series in the world, and I'm glad this is NASCAR. Again, I don't want these rules here, but like, man, that would have been a penalty anywhere else. But yeah, he was swerving like a motherfucker.
Someone in the comments called McDowell McDonkey, and that made my whole day.
From there, we've got Riley Herbst to 2311, which I don't know if that's been heavily rumored, but when you think about the money that Herbst has behind him, it makes total sense.
And Monster.
I mean, I think he's still got a ways to go in experience, but he's definitely improved a lot over the last couple of years. And I thought that last wreck in the Xfinity race was caused by him, but no, it actually was caused by one of Tommy Joe Martin's cars who wrecked Herbst, who wrecked the whole field. So
I mean, Riley, he's done okay in a Cup car the couple times he's run. You know, he's. Mm-hmm. again, like at Daytona in particular, you race a little differently when you don't have championship points to worry about. So he ran up front for most of that race and was able to manage lines and that shit. So I could see it working. He seems to handle the Cup car just fine. So that could be a huge deal for his career. And I think we've all kind of turned around on Riley a little bit. I don't think any of us are fans necessarily, but he's improved. I think he's definitely beat the rich kid charges. So
for sure. And then from there we've got RFK picking up Ryan Preece and Kroger, which I would say, the Kroger stuff has been rumored for a minute, and Bob Pockers keeps nudging Brad at press conferences about it, which is funny. But yeah, I think they're a week or two away from announcing that.
The career that wouldn't fucking die.
Shit, man. Like I like Preece, but
Same.
this has to be his last real shot if he gets this. So hopefully it works out for him.
I think it's just a testament to how well liked he is, and he's bringing something to all of these teams to stay alive in this. Because if his name was anything else, I don't think he'd be in any seat in the Cup Series. He'd be back here at Thompson with the boys. Or in the Truck Series, he's pretty good down there too, or Xfinity. There's plenty of places for him to go, but yeah, Cup has just never worked for Ryan, and hopefully this is the turnaround point for him.
If he joins it, he's gonna be joining a team that's on the up and up, so
for sure.
He won't really have too many excuses, unfortunately. And then finally, the last note is the one that we're all gonna be just throwing our hands up in the air about. Ty Dillon to colleague. Again, he is the likable Dillon.
Actually, speaking of careers that wouldn't die.
But why? What does he bring as far as money or anything is concerned? Again, he is the likable Dillon. Like, anytime I see him anywhere, in interviews or anything, he's like, you're the one that I'm okay with. But
he seems like a good Dillon. Yeah, maybe everyone got confused and it was actually Ty Norris to colleague and not Ty Dillon. And now they have to deal with it. So that'd be fine. They got the name wrong on the press release, and Ty Dillon gets another shot in Cup. So,
that wraps up my silly season report in the Athletic. From there, we've got going back to Denny Hamlin's unfortunate cold streak the last few weeks. He is apparently, and him and his crew and everybody are blaming it on this dog that they picked up at Kansas.
Yeah.
Which, as a dog person, that really breaks my heart that you're going to blame a dog for your bad luck. But it got to the. Go ahead.
I was going to say the stats don't lie.
It's true. Well, it's funny because his crew chief on the podcast this week, Chris Gabehart's crew chief, right?
Yeah.
Want to make sure. Okay, so Jordan, Denny's social media guy who co-hosts the podcast with, if you're not a listener, talked about how I don't know if it's at Watkins Glen or whatever, comes up to Jordan and he pulls him aside and Jordan's like, this doesn't happen. Jared, excuse me. This doesn't happen.
His fiance.
Yeah. Actually, Chris Gabehart asked Jared to take the dog for a week to see if their luck changes. So, again,
that's some classic NASCAR superstition right there. I love that.
Yeah, someone also suggested that he bring the dog to the track because the dog's never been to a race before. So they were like, maybe you bringing it to the track finally is what it needs to break the curse. Because he brings his other dog to the track sometimes.
Well, maybe that's it. But
maybe he'll give Chip Ganassi a late night call and put this all to rest. But I guess we'll see if there's a dog tied up outside the hauler at Bristol or not.
I really hope that's not the case.
Poor Lulu.
Poor Lulu.
In news that's much closer to me geographically, there was an ASA race at Toledo this past weekend, and former NASCAR driver, Cleveland resident Matt, and former BJ McLeod co-owner Matt Tift got into an altercation with Billy Van Meter, and went and tried to talk to Billy after the race, and he did throw a punch at Billy, but then got kicked in the face by Billy's brother afterwards.
Is that who that was?
Yeah, that's who it was. I read an article right before we got on the air. So the guy that kicked Matt in the face is like banned indefinitely from ASA races and was fined. He's also let go from that team. But he did put out a very apologetic statement saying like I thought Matt knocked my brother out, but motherfucker, dude was on the ground. Like you can't kick somebody on the face when he's held down on the ground. Like that's a real bitch move.
I didn't believe that apology. And plus, apparently, that guy has a history of being a piece of shit.
Slashing tires, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the first time this shit has gone down. And also, like, it's pretty well known that Matt Tifft survived brain cancer. So his little brain is
brain aneurysms, I think it was.
Yeah,
was that it?
Something like that. Whatever it is, it's definitely not candidate number one to just put your Doc Martin
kick in the noggin.
Yeah.
I saw his little video where he was asking fans if he should press charges, and what's funny is I noticed he filmed that walking in like a very, very rich neighborhood outside of Cleveland. Like I used to walk dogs in this neighborhood. I know the exact street he was walking down, and like the neighborhood that he was walking nearby, like the Browns owner. I used to walk dogs in this neighborhood again, so I know it very well. So
well, I mean, he did get half of like $6,000 million or whatever from selling that fucking charter. So
that is true. But he had money beforehand. Like I don't know where his money comes from. He's too young to have all that money. But anyways, moving on to IndyCar. None of us watched the IndyCar race because, of course, they ran the IndyCar season finale in Nashville the same fucking time as NASCAR. So I'm gonna blame IndyCar for that because they just continue to shoot themselves in the foot at every turn this year. So
yeah, hopefully Fox fixes that, or I don't know what the start times are for next year, but who knows? But yeah, congrats to Alex Palou, back-to-back championships for him. Apparently it was a pretty good race. I didn't watch a lap of it, and I love the oval stuff, which is a shame, but I don't know. It's on at the same time as Watkins Glen, so what do you want me to do? I didn't have two TVs to watch where I was at, so too bad. But congrats, Alex, and a lot of good seasons out of a lot of guys. Santino Ferrucci getting a top 10 in the points, beating, I believe, Will Power in the points, if I remember correctly. No, that's not right. It doesn't matter. He beat a lot of really fast cars in AJ Foyt shit. So whether you like Santino or not, I like the AJ Foyt team, so that was cool to see. Kyle Kirkwood putting up a good finish this year. Pato O'Ward, of course, the big star. Apparently, it's a 5-to-1 ratio of Pato shirts versus the field and IndyCar races, so that dude is truly huge everywhere he goes, and I can definitely see why they want to get him down to the NASCAR race in Mexico if they can.
Which it sounds like it's happening. Like it sounds like his team is already allowed him to join the Xfinity race. Yeah. So he
also some late breaking news coming out of the IndyCar world here. Apparently, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing got raided by the FBI today.
Yes. Which, did you see why that happened?
Yeah, because there's a former employee of Andretti has gone over to Rahal, and apparently he took some confidential information with him. A lot of people seem to think, I thought people were joking about this, but it could be Alexander Rossi. It could be somebody else, but yeah, this is going to get, it's Andretti versus the world. They're fighting Formula One, they're fighting Rahal, and David Letterman, they're fighting everybody, so this is... It's going to be a litigious off season for them.
Truly wild to get the FBI involved, though. That's like when you hear the FBI's raiding somewhere. Like, I mean, we just speaking of FBI raids. P. Diddy got arrested.
I was saying maybe David Letterman went to one of them freak offs or something.
Yeah. So we know Jeff Gordon was.
Oh yeah.
But anyways,
Brian Vickers is already on a list, I guess. But
yeah.
My theory is that the FBI was investigating why Graham still has a ride there. That's what I thought it was, because that's mind-boggling to me. But
and yet Connor Daly, he pitched in with a similar take. What the hell did he say here? He was asking. I keep pulling the wrong notes up. His tweet was, "Seems like an aggressive way to get to the bottom where Alexander Rossi is driving."
Yeah. Connor Daly, of course, the Corey LaJoie of the IndyCar field, but much more likable.
But I mean, he looks like Chris
literally,
Benoit,
Connor rules. I like Connor Daly, but it's kind of the same thing. Just always the bridesmaid, just doesn't deliver, which is a shame. But he's got a great podcast that Bobby Marcos produces, Speed Street on Dirty Mo. Check it out. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Rob, what is this listen to this podcast link? Because I didn't look at it.
I did not listen to it.
Oh, it's great.
I'll let you know right now.
I've never listened to this show before. Last week's guest, Kyle Armstrong, suggested this to me. It's called the Pit Wall Podcast. It's a bunch of dudes who, I don't know what their connection is necessarily. Like I said, I've never listened to this before, but it just sounds, it's kind of like what we do. I think they go to a lot of races and kind of hang out and shoot the shit. Just some four Carolina dudes, but they end up getting some pretty, big guests, at least to people like us. And in this particular episode, they have Bobby Hamilton Jr. on there. And if you want to skip the beer drinking talk and all that, just go about 20 minutes in and you get to Bobby. And my God, that guy is fucking hilarious. He just
Oh yeah, I'm looking. They had.
he tells all. He's got some crazy stories and he's got some crazy theories and he's completely honest.
He was
with
in
what
jail, I think.
I don't know if he ended up there or not, but maybe he was. But
I think he was in jail. I see they had Kevin LePage on and
oh yeah.
Steve Post and Jody Ridley is on here.
Yeah.
Gary Ballou. I'm gonna have to listen to this shit.
But yeah, it's super casual and Bobby just lets it rip. I have not laughed this hard at a podcast in a long time. Just him talking about working with all the Baywatch folks when they sponsor his car. It's just, yeah.
Oh, it's Jeremy Mayfield on.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh.
I mean, the episode's called Them Bitches Would Drink for Days, and that's in reference to Baywatch, so. Or the cast of Baywatch, so yeah, it's a must listen. It's too funny, man. And you get to hear a lot of inside baseball from Bobby Hamilton, and I'm going to be checking out other episodes of this podcast because, yeah, I laughed my ass off at this one.
I'll definitely check him out on my drive down Friday for sure.
Yeah.
We do have an update from the Eldora Speedway fan group that we've mentioned on the show for it's probably like the 5th or 6th week in a row. Breaking news coming from the NASCAR world, and this is, I'm just going to read it because I don't know how else to say it. After Bubba Wallace's asked Denny Hamlin to join him over to deposit $52 million to buy ... Racing community announced Bubba Wallace dead in his apartment this morning ... Details, and there's about 55 crying emojis and 5 thumbs down. So. Also, there was something about Chase Elliott getting fined $53 million for sticking up for Bubba Wallace or something like that. So, yeah, big fines coming down from Daytona this week.
You can buy Daytona with that.
Yeah. We also got a fan question this week, which is pretty good.
Yeah, we had a few last week, but most of them were all Eldora related, and they're all pretty much answered on the show. But this one we missed, and is one we can kind of all talk about a little bit. So
yeah. Tattered Checkers, who I believe has asked us a couple questions that we've brought on the show before. He asked, what are everybody's earliest racing memories at a racetrack? And I'll let one of you guys go first, since I don't really have a good one.
Trying to think. I don't have any great memories, early memories of like going to actual circle track races. I would say my earliest memories are motocross races, and I have I remember going to the Syracuse Mile for AMA flat track racing, and then obviously monster trucks. Honestly, this is a funny memory. So the first ever monster truck show I went to was at the Glens Falls Civic Center in like 87 or 88, and I remember before the show started, I was riding my bike in my neighbor's driveway and fucking flying down this hill full speed and falling and cracking my head on the ground. And I remember my mom calling the doctor to see if I'd be okay, and then I still went to the monster truck show afterwards and remember that. So that is my first memory, and probably tells you something about my brain. So, but yeah, my first. I know I went to Lebanon Valley for dirt races. Probably 89, 90, but I don't have any memories of that. So, yeah, it's going to be monster trucks or motocross for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Truelove?
I have a terrible, terrible memory. So I don't know, like, what age these things are, but I definitely have memories of being a kid and going to Lanier Raceway with my dad, and they have that big hill on the backside of the track where it's like a grandstand to park your cars, and I can remember going in his old pickup truck there and sitting in the back of his truck with like the grill and just watching races from up there on that hill. And then I have a memory, my first time at a dirt track was going to Livonia Speedway because my Uncle David was participating in the demolition derby that night.
Hell yeah, he was.
So that was incredible as a kid. And as far as like NASCAR, we never went to any big race. I feel like I've talked about this before. We never went to any races because we just couldn't afford to go. But there were a few times when I was really young that my dad took me to practice because that was free and open to the public, and it was like, they'd be out there for hours. So we went to that a couple times, but I never went to my first NASCAR race until I was 18 and took myself. So
Nice.
18? Good Lord. I was fucking 10.
Well, I got you beat on
I
that.
just couldn't afford it.
Yeah, so my first trip, I went to a tractor pull in, Winona, Wisconsin, which is it's a major event. It was awesome. I went there when I was like 18. I've been watching NASCAR since I was, I don't know, fucking 4 years old, 5 years old. But it's the same thing. Growing up in Arkansas, there weren't really any tracks close to us at that level. And my parents weren't really keen on taking me. We had speedways all over the place. There's West Hallam Springs on the other side of the border. But we just never really went to races, and that's not something they ever wanted to take me to. So the first one I ever went to was Loudon in 2012. And I took a bus up there, and, the little go bus or whatever, and that was my first real NASCAR experience. But my earliest memory of a racetrack, and this is definitely a cherished memory of mine, and I hope I hang on to this one until I'm gone. But I remember being at my grandparents' house in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and you could hear, what was it called? I think it was Thunder. Was it Thunder Valley? I can't remember. There was a speedway just south of Fayetteville, Arkansas, or like in kind of close to my grandparents' place. And on Saturday nights, sometimes I'd spend the night over there with them and go to church with them on Sunday morning. And I remember just sitting on the back porch with them, and you could hear those cars off in the distance. And I was a race fan. I was like, God, I want to go to that someday. But it just never worked out. But I could hear it. Yeah. And real special just sitting out there with all the fireflies and, a nice summer breeze, humidity breaking, and just the sound of those cars off in the distance. But yeah, for me, my first memory at the racetrack was pretty recent, 2012. So.
Jeez. See, I guess that's where, even though I was estranged from my aunt and uncle, I grew up in somewhat of a racing fan family, although most of them like motorcycles more than anything else. But well, I mean, there was always racing.
I had
at some level.
My great uncle, he actually drove at a lot of those tracks in the Ozarks. I never knew this growing up. I found this out much later, and I was able to find some photos of him on the Ozark Mountain Racing Memories group or whatever. It wasn't even a group. It was like a CJB.net website. And there's a picture of him with the trophy and the family car that somebody gave him, and he knocked the windows out of it and took it to the racetrack instead.
Well,
he was kind of a black sheep, I guess, and I think that's probably why there was some distance between me and wanting to go to that. But yeah,
it's funny. My parents were just here in town, and a couple months ago, my buddy Josh found at an estate sale back home. He found this portrait of a 70s modified by a driver named Mert Hurlburt, which I guess he was pretty well-known driver up in the Northeast in the 70s. And it was sponsored by Kennedy's Garage from Troy, New York. And I showed it to my parents. It's like, your grandfather used to work there. You gotta be fucking kidding me. So,
no kidding.
So yeah, like I've got this painting of a car that is sponsored by the garage my grandpa used to work at. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, great question. So, and again, please keep them coming, folks. We love to hear from you. We'll pretty much say anything on the show. Also, last week, a former guest Jay Pennell asked where he was, as always. And again, I don't know. I don't know where Jay's at. So, but he's alive.
Is Jay coming this weekend?
I asked him. He said probably not. So I'll text him again tomorrow and double check. But.
Yeah. Also, while I was down in Charlotte, because I was there over the weekend, and I guess I'll talk about that.
Yeah, we got to talk about your garage trip. What'd you see?
Well, I did see Jay's book on the shelf at, I think it's called Books and Books at the Concord Mills. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was sitting right there. I was looking for anything.
Joe Gibbs to sign it?
I was trying to pick up his copy of the Bible or whatever it is that he sells or gave you for free and couldn't find it. I did buy the Cal Petty book. I already got Jay's, so I didn't pick that up, but...
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see a copy of a book that somebody I know very well put out there in the world. So it's called...
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's called Start Your Engines if you want to pick it up. The Forward by Jeff Gluck. You guys know him. But yeah, I was down in Charlotte this weekend. I didn't really get into anything too crazy. Charlotte is a party town for me. But I basically hung out with all my North Carolina friends at Eldora. This was a family trip. And before I get into this, I just want to shout my wife, Caddy, out. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but she had a pretty serious knee injury a couple years ago. Running was her passion, and she was pretty damn good at it too. And that got taken away from her. And I mean, you hear stories of folks losing the thing they love to do the most, and how hard that is to deal with. And this weekend, she actually signed up and did a fucking triathlon. Her first one back. And what in the fuck is that?
It's
Brian's dog.
yeah, my poor dog coughs once in a while. Sorry
He's a
about
big
that.
fan of your wife.
But
He
yeah,
was very moved by your story.
but yeah, we went down there to see family, and she ran this triathlon, and she crushed it. I think she finished 60th out of like 250 or 260 people, despite the fact that she pretty much walked the running portion. Poor thing. That's what I would sound like if I tried to run a triathlon right there. Jesus. Maybe your dog needs some of that bent carrot medicine or something to straighten that shit up. But yeah, I'm just real proud of her, and that's definitely one of the best days of my life, seeing that happen and seeing her back doing what she loves to do. And I bawled my eyes out when it happened, and it was awesome. I love my wife so much, and I was really proud to see her get back to it. But that was the reason we went to North Carolina. And again, like I said, I didn't really see any of our friends or anything like that, but I did get to go see a bunch of race shops. My brother-in-law, he's a big NASCAR fan, and so anytime we go out there, that's kind of what we do. I got to see a bunch of shit I've never seen before. I went to 2311 for the first time. We went on Friday, which is a bad day to go to the shops because there's just nothing happening.
Yeah, that's when I went to, and it was so empty in there.
Sad dude sitting up there at the desk, Welcome, here it is. It's just a giant fucking Apple store pretty much, But I've never been in a brand new race shop before, and it's pretty cool to see that. They've done a nice job with it, and I'm sure it's pretty neat. They have a nice overhang.
It smells new in there,
It smells brand new, yeah. It was funny. They had that shitty-ass Kansas trophy, the slot machine, sitting up on the desk, and boy, that guy was ready to talk shit about it. It was awesome. He was like, "Is that the real one?" He's like, "Yep, it sure is." Just the way he said it was. It did look like shit. It looked like you could pull brochures off the back of it to see like where the mini golf was in the area, but
yeah, it's terrible.
Definitely worth the visit. Pretty cool. We also went to Hendrick that day, which is they got some new stuff in there. They've got Terry Labonte's one of his Kellogg's number 5 cars in there, and a couple other new things. A couple Jeff Gordon cars I'd never seen before. And the big attraction for me, of course, was Kyle Larson's Indy 500 car was sitting in there with that helmet that Ryan painted, sitting there on the side, and it was pretty cool to see that in person. I've never seen one of these new gen Indy cars in person before. They are very ugly on television, but man, in person, those things look incredible. Absolutely incredible. So that was a treat to go check out. I don't think there's anything else at Hendrick worth mentioning, but again, we said it on the show 1,000 times. All these places are free. Go check them out.
You didn't buy a Larson Noggin Boss?
They weren't. They were out of Noggin Bosses.
Oh, dang.
They were out of Noggin Bosses.
I'm surprised.
Which is a damn shame. And they were out of pretty much any size that I could wear. A lot of smalls and a lot of 4Xs. So that was unfortunate for a regular-sized man like me. But it is what it is. I did pick up that Terry Labonte throwback Larson shirt. They had it on clearance for some reason. That was the only XL in the place. So, but anyway, weekend went on. Went out to the Whitewater Center on Friday night and checked out this band called the Deslons. They're all right. They're a good band. The most boring group of dudes I've ever seen in my life. Not guys I'd want to hang out with, but they sounded great, and that's a hell of a venue. And I only say this just because the shows there are free and they get some big time acts coming through there. So it's definitely worth checking out and sitting on a blanket and watching a band play on a nice big sound system while people are ripping by on kayaks on both sides. So it's pretty cool. Saturday was what did we do on Saturday? I don't even fucking know. Sunday was a triathlon, and then we went home and watched the race. We already talked about that. Monday, with our morning before we went to the airport, we had some more shops. I got to go to Front Row for the first time, which I've never checked out. And it makes it all the more impressive that they're able to do what they do out of this place, because in comparison to some of these other super pro looking shops, like this feels like an old school NASCAR shop. Like you walk in the lobby and, you know, they got the hero cards and shit up there, and you make a left into the little gift shop, which is like, it's just an entrance into their graphics room where they've got all the, I'm assuming this is where they do the wraps and all of their printing and everything. It's just like right there up front.
Yeah.
And there's like a little door, and you just peek through the window and there's the cup operation and the trucks. Super small garage, but yeah, they're killing
Where's the
giants out of
shop
that
at?
place. It's in Mooresville. It's pretty close. It's on the other side of whatever the main drag is from where Junior Motorsports is and all that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's where we went next. I think we went to Junior's next. No, we went to Spire next, which, again, that's the old KBM shop. They've done a good job there. I was alluding to it earlier in the show, but, man, you can kind of see why they're getting speed. That place, it looks like a Hendrick, or it looks like one of the bigger teams. That they've spent a lot of money on that. I know KBM was nice, and so they already had some nice digs to move into, but, man.
Yeah, it was nice. I didn't even know that they'd moved in there. For some reason, I still thought they were behind the Speedway over in Alan Quicky's old.
Oh, right. No. The old shit box, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's,
'Cause
they're in KBM
was
now.
that
in full.
Chili's picture from there?
Yes, it is. It's off in this weird hallway they have with some trophies. It's just kind of parked by itself.
That picture is so desolate, and it's just like his Chili's car parked next to the bathrooms. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, nothing much to report from there. Again, just a super clean shop. Definitely worth a visit. We went to my first time going to Junior's place. That's a cool place to go check out. Again, not much
you gotta
to
go
see
on
there.
Fridays and do the tour.
Yeah, not much to see, but they do let you into the actual shop. It's the only place I can think of, other than Trackhouse. Once in a while, they'll let you in there and actually stand inside the shop itself. Penske doesn't count because you're on a giant overhang, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But, yeah, you're like in the shop and they're working. And again, we went on Monday, so everyone was unloading from the weekend. That was probably the coolest shop experience I've had at all these places on Monday, because there was a lot of work happening. Because sometimes if you go on a weekend, there's just nothing happening because everyone's gone.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool to watch him unload Carson's car after the win, or Connor Zilich. We did see Carson Hocevar's car getting unloaded over at Spire. Looked pretty clean, but yeah. I took some forbidden photos until my brother-in-law told me that you're not supposed to take pictures of the shop. But yeah, they got that old Earnhardt Nova sitting right there at the entrance. So I don't know how they expect you to not take photos of that.
I think you can take pictures of it. You just can't take pictures of
The shop. Yeah.
yeah.
I did see a really cool KOA paint scheme. I think it was an '88 car. Did you say that was Carson Quapple, Truelove?
Yeah, Brian Williams had released a shirt recently that he drew up for that. I'm not sure when they're racing it, but
Yeah, but that thing's wrapped and it's sitting in there and off in the distance. And yeah, Junior's place is cool. I did buy a Metrolina Speedway hat. I guess Kelly Earnhardt has this little side gig where she'll sew patches onto
bedazzled hats.
And she does a lot of bedazzled stuff in there. But she's also got some, I don't know if these are original Metrolina patches or original Dale patches or anything like that, but she's got some pretty cool new stock trucker hats with these vintage looking patches on them. So I picked up the Metrolina one. And then we got out of there and headed over to Roger Penske's place, which I haven't gone there in about 10 years. And I think that might be the coolest shop experience out of all of them. Again, there's better museums than that. They don't really have a museum or anything like that. Penske's collection's out in Arizona. But just standing on this giant overhang above, I mean, Hendrick is big, but it's two buildings. This is easily the biggest single building shop in NASCAR. And you just looking down on all the real work is happening in the back room, because you can hear them like just thrashing on shit back there. But all the haulers are parked in there, and they got a bunch of random cars. Looked like they had some random late models parked in there too. The noses didn't really look like a cup car, so I don't know what that would be. I don't know if Kevin Harvick's parking his shit in there or what, but yeah, just a super cool experience. And yeah, Penske's, you can kind of see why they're who they are in motorsports around the world, just like the cleanliness, the efficiency, just the size and scope. It's a fucking killer place. And that's also in Mooresville. Again, it's free. I didn't buy anything at any of these places really, except for that hat. Though Penske did have, the hero card section like every place, but they also had a little basket of hand sanitizer, which I'm guessing is left over from the pandemic. No, they're free. You can just pick them up.
Oh.
And they come in these. It was definitely from that time where people stopped making liquor and started making hand sanitizers, because these are just like little airplane bottles or nips of Team Penske hand sanitizer. And so I got a couple of those, and yeah,
There you go.
maybe if times get desperate, that'll turn back into liquor for old Rob here. And then we went to this big ass antique mall in Mooresville. I don't know what it's called, but it's like right downtown. And my lord, that place is huge. Just as big as Penske's spot. But the nice thing about North Carolina, unlike the rest of the world, there are several like die-cast and NASCAR memorabilia and racing memorabilia booths.
Yes, I saw you went to booth 34. That's like the famous one.
Yeah, and that place is crazy. Now, I was looking for like sprint car and modified stuff, which they didn't really have a whole lot of. It's mostly NASCAR, but still pretty cool to thumb through all those old racing champions.
You got to hit up. You got to hit up my boy Tom at 07 for the sprint car stuff. He's got a bunch of diecast.
Is that in the same building?
No, that's my shop in New York that I.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, that sounds better. I'll have to do that sometime. But yeah, this place is cool. We only had about 15 minutes in there, so I didn't really get to check out much. I did spend about $200 or $300 of mind money while I was in there, but I already spent enough money on this trip and decided it was probably for the best to just leave it all behind, because I don't think anyone's buying Ron Bouchard diecasts and anything like that in there. So I figured next time I go back for the World Finals, maybe that stuff will probably be there. So
yeah,
It's there waiting for you.
Yeah, and then on my way home, again, I had this brand new trucker hat. I didn't want to fuck it up, so I put it in the top of my backpack to get through security. Because it was raining outside. So as soon as we got inside, I swapped the new hat on, went through security, and I'm sitting there, and this dude kind of walks up. I got my hat on backwards, right? And it's the Metrolina Speedway hat. And he comes up and is like, "You ever been to Metrolina? Did you go there?" And I was like, "No, that was before my time, but I know about it." And we started talking racing, and it turns out this guy is Nipper Alsop, who is the son of Bill Alsop, who was one of the early kart drivers. He was a kart rookie of the year, drove for Roger Penske, did a bunch of Can-Am shit in the later days, and we just sat there and talked racing for about an hour while my wife just tried to like disappear into the carpet. She's like, "I got nothing to offer this shit." Yeah, really nice guy. I guess he works, does a lot of work with AMG Mercedes. He's on his way down to Coda to do some work for Mercedes down there. And of course, he had his own little truck career too. I think he drove like 4 or 5 races and ran some ARCA races and Winston West and all that. So yeah, definitely cool to bump into somebody who was actually in the shit. Sadly, his dad passed away a few years ago. But yeah, Bill Alsop was one of the early kart guys, and definitely a racer's racer. So it was definitely nice to meet some of his blood. And dude was nice, gave me his business card. He's got a photo of his dad and him at like age 7 on the business card. I'll send you guys a picture of it. It's an awesome photo. But I guess he's up here. He races a lot in Vermont, and well, I'm sure we'll link up at some point. He says he's gonna try to make it down to Thompson to run something there. So yeah, it's you don't get to really run into strangers and talk racing very often outside of the context of the racetrack, and anytime it does happen, it's such a treat. And especially when it's somebody who's got as much skin in the game as Nipper and the Alsop family does. That was a nice little treat. So,
Hell yeah. Nice little way to cap off your trip.
it was, and then we got delayed for like 3 hours. So that's Charlotte. So. But yeah, that was my weekend. Again, real proud of my wife, and I love my family very much. It's always good to be down there, and I'll be back down in Charlotte for the World Finals. I think it's the first weekend of November, and we'll do it all again.
I'll have to try to make it down there this year for that.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be like Eldora.
It's not gonna be like a.
We'll
Come
see.
on, we all.
I mean, like temperature-wise, the racing's never as good as
Yeah.
Eldora, but
Yeah,
It's about to be hot
that's
again
what
this weekend here, so.
yeah. Well, are we in the septic tank?
Well, do we have a DARF of the week? I see a DARF. Nope. No,
No, that's just
actual-
left over from the template here. I don't actually have a DARF of the week. I'm sure there's there's plenty out there.
I'm sure someone said something out there.
I mean, Bubba just re-signed today, so I'm sure someone in there heard it.
The few reactions that I saw were worthy of that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody out there, but yeah. You know what to do if it's you.
Yeah.
You know it was you, or you don't. Who knows? I wish I could live a life as ignorant as some of these people, but unfortunately, I was blessed with a mild version of a conscience.
There are a couple of people that I saw call Corey LaJoy the GOAT under his last Instagram post.
Two straight top 10s, greatest of all time. Fuck off. Good Lord.
Actually, I have one from last week I meant to bring up. I didn't hear this happen, but I can't remember if it was Dillner or Kyle that brought this up to me. I think it was Kyle, but he was talking to the folks over at the Arizona Sportswear trailer, and some guy came up, and that's, of course, who did Scott Bloomquist merch. Yeah. And somebody had the audacity to ask if Scott was going to be signing today.
Holy shit!
The guy's like, nope.
Yeah, that's Darth of the Year candidate right there. Holy fucking Christ!
So,
how do you show up to Eldora of all places and ask that question? What the fuck planner do you want?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that again that's a secondhand story. So but I believe it. I've seen some people out there who would say that shit.
I believe it too. Yeah. I mean, I've had people tell me they saw Ernie Irvin die, and they're like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. Ernie's still signing, but...
yeah.
Hell, I guess we're in the septic tank since we're talking about Eldora. We'll get this out of the way real quick. I didn't really have an opportunity to watch a lot of this racing, unfortunately. I just saw highlights and all that. I was busy doing the family thing, so, turning flow racing on is not always an option. But there was a lot of racing this weekend. Tyler Courtney got a big win at the Commonwealth Clash at Lernerville. Also, future NASCAR star Corey Day ended up in the next county on account of his rear axle just kind of breaking loose from the car, and the wheels shot off, and he just went over the berm and off into the trees and never to be seen again. So, but on the other side of that wreck, apparently was a truck ride, because Corey Day just announced he's going to be driving for McAnally at Bristol this weekend. That'll be his first major NASCAR series start. Didn't do too hot in his ARCA debut, but I mean, who does? But he's going to be driving 4 truck races this year, including Homestead, Kansas, and I forget what the other one is, and of course Bristol this weekend. So people really hot on Corey Day. Of course, Larson and Jeff Gordon are both big proponents. He's coming with the Hendrick Car sponsorship, and very, very high expectations for Corey here. So we'll see what he does. I don't expect to see him do anything like Connor Zilic did necessarily, especially at a place like Bristol, but I bet he'll hold his own. But you know how the truck series is, you never know. But yeah, watch out for Corey Day. He's definitely the next flavor of the week here for everybody looking for a new talented driver. Anyway, back over to sprint car racing. Buddy Kofoid doubled up at Bakersfield and Merced this weekend in the World of Outlaws. He's now firmly in the title battle. He's really lit it up over the past few weeks here and found a ton of speed in that Roth car. And Buddy is definitely going to take it to gravel in the boys this year for the championship. That's going to be fun to watch as we start to wind this down. Over on the asphalt side, the NASCAR mods were at Riverhead. Ron Silk picked that up. No surprises there. On the smart side, Luke Baldwin won the Flying Virginia Classic, or Flying VA Classic, in honor of Ray Hendrick, of course, who passed away recently. I don't know if he mentioned that on the show. But of course, Ray was a legendary modified driver down south, and actually you can go see one of his modifieds parked in the Hendrick Museum, which is pretty cool, even though there's no relation, to the best of my knowledge anyway. But still, definitely cool to see that. And of course, Danny Hamlin ran the Flying 11 throwback at Darlington, which is why that car looked so damn hot. It was good. Over in the Cars Tour, Carson Kvapil picked up a win at South Boston. And again, I didn't really watch much of that, but Carson, of course, definitely got a future in NASCAR. And man, the Cars Tour, I'll say this, I did end up at the Lionel outlet when I was in Charlotte at the Concord Mills, and they're starting to make late model diecasts, like Cars Tour diecast. Which,
that was Junior was heavily involved in that shit.
So man, it's pretty crazy that and like some of these, there's an Eric Jones super late that's being distributed to like Target and Walmart and shit.
What?
Yeah, it's part of the new wave of Lionel diecast. Yeah, it's pretty wild how that corner of the world is starting to seep into the greater consciousness near here. And of course, the Cars Tour is backed by a bunch of NASCAR guys: Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, all involved in the ownership group. And yeah, just keep your eye on that series. And again, I know Brian. Actually, none of us are really late model people all that much when it comes to asphalt, but they always put on good races, and it's always worth watching for sure.
Like I said, they got some work to do, but I'll keep an eye on it for sure.
Coming up, some big news for the USAC sprint cars. They're going to the little quarter mile they got at Indianapolis on BC 39 weekend. Those sprint cars have never been there before, so that'll be exciting. And the BC 39 is coming up next week. We'll talk about it probably a little more in depth on next week's show, because that kicks off next Thursday. This weekend there is a lot of racing. The Lucas Oil late models are at Knoxville for the Nationals there. That's going to be a huge deal. Definitely one of the crown jewels of the year. NASCAR Modifieds are at Monadnock. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it out to that. I'm doing some band shit this weekend, but that's always a great show. The biggest show of the weekend is the Four Crown at Eldora. Nice entry list rolling there. And, of course, sprint car racing all weekend. And then the World of Outlaws continue their West Coast swing out of the Thunder Bowl before heading back towards this way. I think they're going to Ohio after that. Again, that's all for next week's show. But as always, there's a ton of short track racing to watch this weekend. If you got a track near you, make sure you go. If you got a couch, make sure you flip on the streaming service of your choice and check it out. There's always something going on. Sadly, a little bit less. Season's coming to an end. Fucking sucks. It's halfway through September already. What the fuck? Fuck that shit. But there's still time, and there's still plenty to watch. So before we flush it down, just like I said, make sure you support these places while they're still open for the year. And yeah, I guess... Truelove, you're not going to go to Bulls Gap, right? Even though you should.
No, I'm going to be at the truck race.
Oh, yeah, it's the same time.
Yeah. I got to set up camp tomorrow and get settled in. And
well, Bristol's technically, it's a short track. It's not technically a short track,
Yeah.
It is. So that technically counts.
Yeah.
It just has a fucking stadium built around it, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and flush
I
her
got
down
a foam
again.
party to go to.
Even if you don't have Flow or Dirt Vision, we got short track racing courtesy of NASCAR this weekend, and those are my favorite weekends. So hopefully the tires are as junk as they were earlier in the year, and we see us a show. So we're going to and flush it down.
We didn't even get into all that bullshit. Yeah, the tires. Who knows what the tires would be like? But it's supposed to be like, I think, 60s or 70s Saturday night. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love a good Saturday night
like
NASCAR show, man.
It's supposed to be in the 80s during the daytime, so it's going to be kind of all over the place.
Also, Truelove, I just want to call you out here. I saw your Instagram post today about going to Atlanta and sweating your ass off. You were wearing jeans, dude.
When am I not wearing jeans?
You wear shorts sometimes.
I've seen
shorts.
Yes, I've definitely seen you in shorts many times.
Well, I'm wearing shorts this weekend. I will give you that. But
Good. Yeah.
when I left the house that morning to go to the Atlanta race, it was like brisk outside. I was like, oh, it's too chilly to wear shorts today. I was like,
Come on,
definitely
you
gonna wear jeans.
fucking live there. You should know how this works. Come on.
Well, I was like, well, I'll just put on my lightest pair of jeans. This will be fine. Yeah. And I was wrong.
I just saw that photo and I was like, oh, well, that makes fucking sense. So,
Yeah. So,
just looking out for you. That's all.
yeah.
We'll get you some zip off
I will
at the knees, those
forever be-
cargos with the zippers on them. You can open the vents up or take the legs off, you know. Incognito.
Yeah.
All right, well, now it's time for the video of the week segment. This is a holdover from a couple weeks ago, since last week we didn't do any video of the week stuff because we were so much other shit to talk about. But this one I chose because they were racing at Watkins Glen, which they just raced there, so it's current enough. And again, it's a 37-year-old video, so
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? This is another episode of ESPN Speed Week, hosted by Bob Jenkins and Larry Newber. I think we've watched an episode before on the show, but this was, for those who were around and remember RPM Tonight, this was the precursor to RPM Tonight. And really, going through the notes here, they covered so much shit, so much stuff on this show.
Oh, it's awesome.
I was impressed
must have
by
been,
how much they crammed into this 30-minute video.
Yeah, must have been 20 races they covered on this, which RPM Tonight, I love that show, don't get me wrong, but that focused mainly on NASCAR and the bigger series, whereas this had series I've never even heard of on it.
It was it wasn't Formula V, but it was it was Formula Atlantic or whatever it was called prior to that, or the Skip Barber.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. I may have heard of those series in passing, but I mean, never watched.
Yeah, World of Outlaws silly season news, and this is all on cable. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, so much shit.
Do it again.
So starts off obviously with a report from Watkins Glen, since that was the big race of the week, and they called Rusty Wallace a young kid from the suburbs, which is, I mean, they're from St. Louis. Were they? I don't think they were really from the suburbs. I can't imagine the Wallaces grew up in the suburbs. I don't know what that comment was about, but this was the 87 race, which was, rain delayed to Monday, and race report. They showed everybody that spun out, a lot of spins in this race. They showed Bill Elliott getting out of the race early. Terry Labonte got a top 5, which Terry Labonte was kind of underrated. He at Watkins Glen, at least, like, he won a few Busch races there and always did fairly well. Which I don't think people really think of Terry Labonte as a road racer, but yeah, he had the Glen figured out. Rusty won this race in 87 by 11 seconds, and even though he was starting to become a little bit of a star in the series, like he was already in the Blue Max car in 87, he still had his little...
Yeah, wasn't a champion
a champion yet, but he still had a little bit of his fro going on. Before he tamed that down when he became a champion, but 87 he still had a bit of one.
Yeah, Penske made him shave it off.
Yeah. We are in Bodine country, and they mentioned Jeff in the Cup race, but Jeff actually in 87, he was in the IROC series as well, and he had a 2-point lead going into the Watkins Glen season finale for the series, and he ended up winning that race and winning the championship that year. They showed a clip of DW going off the track immediately as the race started, which I thought was pretty funny. They said he forgot a turn or something. Let's see here. Yeah. They said 3 of the last 4 champions in IROC came from NASCAR, which, when you think about it, makes sense. I mean, yeah, obviously these guys are all put in identical cars and they all come from different series, but at the end of the day, those IROC cars were essentially stock cars, so it makes sense that NASCAR guys more or less dominated that series in its entire run. Then a little callback to previously in our show. This was when the Thunderdome in Australia first opened up, and they did a big tire test there with Richard Petty and Bobby Hillen and a few other NASCAR drivers coming over.
Random kangaroo.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, it's Australia. You got to have a kangaroo there.
This Richard Petty interview is so good.
Yeah, Richard talks a lot of shit in this. I will say Bob Jane, the guy who opened the track, he reminded me of an Australian Bruton Smith as far as his looks were concerned. Yeah. And yeah, Richard, he talks shit. Now, I'm curious about which tracks he was talking about here, because his one quote was, he was talking about it's like, some of these new tracks that opened up the last few years in the States, like, they didn't have the banking figured out as good as these guys over here did. And I'm like, which tracks are you talking about? I'm trying to think back to
curious,
this,
yeah. Well,
this
Richmond
time
was
period.
repaved around this time, or reconfigured, but that was a little later.
I don't know if it had been open. Maybe that year, if that, it was opened. I feel like it was 88 or 89.
Yeah, it was. It was later
rebuilt.
on. So, yeah, I was trying to figure out what he was talking about too, and I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a neat little throwback to earlier in the show. The first commercial break is, yes, of course, this had all the commercials in it. First commercial break was first one was BF Goodrich tires. That was like a off-road-ish racing ad. Quaker State. And then there was a commercial for the Dodge Shadow, which had just debuted in 87. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm very familiar with the Dodge Shadow. This is what my family drove for. I grew up in a Mopar family. Everybody had Dodges. My mom had multiple. Now, she didn't get the Dodge one. She got the Plymouth Sundance, which
classic.
I will say, if the very few listeners out there listen to Oh Yeah Dude, another one of my favorite podcasts, the Plymouth Sundance is a well-known car in that field. So I had actually a Dodge Duster, which was just a Dodge Shadow with a Duster trim package, and that thing was a pile of shit. This is a very high-tech ad for a car that was really a pile of shit. Like all those Dodges back then. No, they were not good cars. And that was the end of the first commercial break. Then straight up in F1, which they were talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix that week. But before they even talked about that, they had to get into some important news. Basically, Lotus was replacing Ayrton Senna with Nelson Piquet. And they had a little interview with Senna, and he kind of had nothing to say, really. He was like, they're two of the best teams, and we'll see which one I end up in.
Yep. It was McLaren.
Yeah. Nelson Piquet, well-known racist Nelson Piquet, ended up winning that race. And then they had a little bit of IndyCar news. Notably, Tom Sneva getting replaced by young Johnny Andretti, and the photo they used for Tom Sneva it just made me laugh. Like, Tom just looked very surprised that he was getting a photo taken of him at the moment.
It's a live photo of him finding out he lost his job.
Then there was a recap of the Skip Barber Saab series at Watkins Glen, which I don't know shit about that fucking series. Like, it was just like, okay, that was a race that happened. And then there was
the only notable name I caught in there, and again, I'm sure some of these guys end up in sports cars and all that. Brian Bonner was in this race, and he had a little bit of a kart career later on.
Oh, that's definitely a tidbit none of us, Ashley and I would not have caught.
Anyway.
So. Yeah. Then there was some SCCA race, some 24-hour race, which at first I thought it was America, but definitely it was not America. I don't know where the fuck it was.
Canada, I think.
Okay, Canada. I guess that makes sense. And there was a accompanying race, the Porsche Challenge, that was won by a very young Scott Goodyear, which that's somebody I recognized.
I thought
from there,
the whole time that in the interview, I was like, man, this guy looks so stoned. And then he was like, I got gasoline in my eyes in the 24-hour race. I was like, oh.
Yeah, he ran the 24-hour race and then another feature after that, which is crazy.
I think he said he flipped his car.
He did, yeah.
24-hour race, yeah.
Scott never recovered from that injury because he stayed sleepy all the way through his broadcasting career. So maybe he was stoned the whole time.
He might have been.
No shittier combination in the booth than him and Eddie Cheever, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Definitely take your word on that.
Anyway, yeah.
From there was the second commercial break, which first commercial was a Stock Car magazine with Dick Berggren, which Dick was the editor of that magazine. Did you guys read Stock Car magazine? I did.
A little bit, yeah. I'm more familiar with it now, digging through bins at thrift stores and shit.
Yeah.
So that was that along with Tuckstein, my uncle, who was one of the guys who brought me to the races when I was a kid. I'd get those like a month after the fact. He subscribed to both of those stuff. Very familiar with Stock Car magazine. It was a great magazine. Then there was an ESPN ad, not an ad, but more like a warning about broadcasting rights to a very chill wave song, which I've seen this commercial a handful of times in my old video watching exploits, and big fan of it. And then an ad for the ESPN World Tour sweepstakes, some sort of contest to go to the F1 finale or whatever. And then from here, there's World of Outlaws news. There's a whole Eldora recap and all sorts of different... They talked about like 8 different driver swaps, I think, in about 30 seconds. All the big names you can think of, too, which... including Jeff Gordon. They mentioned young 1987 Jeff Gordon.
Yep.
He
teenage phenom.
He took a ride from one of the Kinsers, I believe. But yeah, this is right when he... Actually, it's funny this was in the video because the lone World of Outlaws diecast I found at that booth, the famous booth, was that car.
The Jeff Gordon one?
The 410 from the year after. It was a different color, so I think it was like maybe a year later, but yeah.
I have a Jeff Gordon sprint car shirt, but I don't think it's that car. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's a shirt from '86, actually. Think about it. Jacksonville.
But this is right around the time, if you guys watched that King of the Midgets documentary on Flow, this is right around the time that Gordon and Rich Vogler started racing each other. And this is a hell of a time in sprint car racing. Also, Rich Vogler absolutely wrecks the dog fuck out of a sprint car at Eldora.
Yeah, a bunch of different flips get shown from Eldora. Races won by Steve Kinzer at Eldora in Findlay, Ohio. Then there's USAC Midgets. Some race won by Sleepy Trip, who I've got a shirt of his in my store right now if you need one of those.
Great name.
Great driver, even greater name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we go to a bunch of super modified stuff, including Sandusky, the High Miler Nationals, which is a pretty well-known super modified race. I've had some shirts from that race. Unfortunately, past guest Stacy's dad was not mentioned. I was looking for his name, but it did not pop up in the Indies. Then another one from Winchester, Indiana, that had like super modifieds and midgets in the same race, which I found that interesting. I guess at this point,
during this segment with the Winchester, Indiana race, when they're talking about it, if y'all watch back, you can tell that the grass was really wet. It had been raining. And in the bottom left corner of that segment, there's a guy who's running through the grass, and he, like, eats shit. I laughed so hard.
I totally missed that. Holy shit.
I got it on right now. I'm going to bag it up.
I'll have to go find that.
You can just see him, like, slip and, like, try to save himself, and it gave me a good little chuckle.
From there, I guess the show had a little Kenny Bernstein interstitial segment called the Bernstein Files, where I guess he talks to different people at the track and whatnot. This was still in the days when Kenny was in his funny car. But he talks with the Mongoose, Tom McEwen, about how the cars of the 80s were actually not quite as fast as the cars from the 60s and 70s, but drove a whole lot better than the old cars. I mean, Tom talked about driving, looking out the windows of his old cars, and the leather face masks and gloves that guys used to wear that would get melted to their skin, and that's what they used as fire equipment back in the day. So that was a fun little laugh in about 30 seconds of dudes' faces melting. From there, the third commercial break. There's 4 commercial breaks in this 30-minute show, which as an old commercial lover, I obviously didn't mind. There was a Motorcraft racing commercial, which really the thing to note about this was they talk about all the different Motorcraft drivers and winners that they had at this time, and they didn't have any of the guys in the actual ad. They just had a mannequin with a faceless mannequin and wearing a driver's suit that they showed when they talked about each one of these drivers, which I got a kick out of that. There was another Quaker State ad, and then there was a Dodge commercial featuring their Dodge Daytona, which was, Dodge in '87 wasn't really involved in a ton of different racing series. I mean, I know they had off-road stuff, and they had the Daytona racing, some road course, and then also at Pikes Peak.
Yep.
But the Dodge Daytona was definitely one of the cooler cars that Dodge had back in the '80s for sure. That and the Rampage, which one of these days I'll get one of those. But anyways, moving on, there's some ASA action. From Anderson, Indiana, we see shots of Butch Miller, Dick Trickle, Bob Steneker, and Ted Musgrave. They're all heavily talked about in this race that had a bunch of different rain delays, but eventually was won by Dick Trickle, who said he had, let's see the exact quote here, and my phone just shits the bed. Had the oldest motor in my worst car, but he still won anyways. His first ASA win in 2 years. And then from there, we go to Winston West action. And I don't know what the hell other series that was running at this Tacoma, Washington street race, but it was a Winston West race. They mentioned Herschel McGriff won, and the other notable name was they mentioned Chad Little. Long before he got involved in actual NASCAR racing. And there's some other IndyCar type, Indy Lights-ish series. And the only thing I noted from that was there was somebody named Ted Krappus.
I think this is what became the American IndyCar series eventually, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, I mean, a little tidbit about the Winston West series. People talking about Chicago being such a big deal now in the Cup Series and how street racing is the new thing. The Winston West Series has always done this. Now, of course, that's the K&N West Series now, but they raced in the streets of Los Angeles back in the early 90s. They did this race. There was a couple more, I believe they did. So street racing has been around in NASCAR for a long time, at least out in the West Coast anyway. So I would like to see... Well, I don't want to see K&N do that, actually. Those races are terrible. So I take that back. Never mind. But these are cool. So
yeah. I mean, they're all just... It's just cup cars, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, when they ran at Riverside and Sonoma and stuff, there was always Winston West guys in those races.
And then even the first Brickyard 400, they opened up the whole field to the Winston West guys. That's why they had like 98 cars or some shit showing up. Yeah, street racing, definitely not a new thing in NASCAR.
Yeah. But speaking of NASCAR, they ended up the show mentioning in passing a Busch Grand National race won by Larry Pollard at Hampton, Virginia, which hell track was in Hampton.
I think it's just Hampton, isn't it?
I don't know. But I mean, it didn't even show a video clip or nothing. Just breezed right by that. Busch Grand National race won by Larry Pollard. Like, there were definitely other
Langley.
series.
It's Langley.
Langley, okay.
Yeah, I knew that.
Regardless, there were definitely other series that were way lower tiered than Busch Grand National that got video footage on the show.
Yeah.
Not this particular race.
Of course, Langley, I just want to point out, is now called Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, which is...
What?
Yeah, say that 5 times fast. So
worse than Bubba Speedway. Then from here, we got our last commercial break. There's a Busch beer commercial with a bunch of cowboys fixing a barn.
I love that one so much.
It was definitely an oddball. Some of these old beer commercials are... I mean, the 90s, they got way more creative and funny with them, but the old ones from the 80s, like some of these Budweiser Busch commercials are just strange.
Just fucking men being men, you know what I mean? Just raising barns and drinking cold Busch heavies.
There was the same BF Goodrich ad was aired again, and then there was an ad for the Australian Grand Prix, which is actually going to be shown live on ESPN in 1987, which is somewhat surprising, but it was like 8 a.m. or whatever, so it's not like... I mean, ESPN back in the 80s was not at all what ESPN is now for those listeners who were not around in those times. It did not have nearly the amount of coverage or big-name sports it used to have, or it has now, I should say. But yeah, ending the show, nothing to do with racing other than the fact it was in a racing facility. The Pan American Games, which those aren't even a thing anymore, sort of Olympic-ish type shit, I guess.
Yeah.
They had their opening ceremony at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they showed some clips of that. So, ending on a stupid note nobody cares about. Thank you, Bob and Larry. So yeah,
Bob and Larry looked at each other longingly a lot in this video too.
Yeah. I love those little transitional segments where they're sitting on that fake wall in the studio and just talking about God knows what, looking at their papers and all that. It's good.
These episodes are not always necessarily the funniest or most enthralling, but at the same time they're very nice time capsules and looks back into what was going on in racing 20, 30, 40, whatever years ago. So I always get a kick out of watching.
This was the stuff that got me into short track racing and sprint cars and all of that. Like, I had no idea what that shit was beyond these shows and this particular show and not this particular episode, but this ESPN series, and then of course TNN, and then they also had Thursday Night Thunder at the time too. So yeah, that was my introduction to short track racing, and it was talked about alongside the big dogs. So I really wish there was a way to make that happen now in modern times, but I guess not. So yeah,
now it's like
they tied the whole world together, which I really appreciated, and again, it got me into everything I'm into now. So I'm very grateful for these shows back in the sort of Genesis days of racing broadcasting on cable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any final notes from you, Truelove?
No, I think we summed it up. I was just really impressed by how much they crammed into
Yeah, there was
this show.
a lot of shit in this show.
Yeah. And seriously, only about 20 minutes because the commercials take up a chunk of it. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Moving on to next week's Video of the Week segment. So not going to be a super long video segment next week because, like I said, Truelove and I are going to Bristol. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week. But got two very short videos. One that came up randomly on my YouTube feed, and it kind of ties back a little bit to my trip to North Carolina a few months ago when I met Richard Petty. I found a video called NASCAR's Dark History at Fonda Speedway, which my brief interaction with Richard Petty, he brought up Fonda Speedway. And I didn't even watch this video because I watched about 5 seconds. Like, you know what? We need a short video for next week. I'm going to save this. So I don't think it's going to be a fun video necessarily, but I don't know what the hell it's all about. I do know when I just looked up Fonda Speedway on YouTube to see what else out there there is. And one, I found a full Fonda race from like '97 that I think Tim McCready won with commercials and everything, which we'll probably not watch, but a lot of crash footage. A lot of crash footage from Fonda. Like, when you look at Fonda Speedway, just tons and tons of crashes. So I have a feeling that this NASCAR video has something to do with that. And the other video I found, I shouldn't say found, it's not very hard to find, but we'll talk a little more about Bristol in a second. Nobody knows for sure, but he's hinted at it, that this coming weekend at Bristol is going to be Dale Jr.'s last NASCAR start. He hasn't said for sure, but he's definitely hinted that it's going to be his last one. So in honor of that, it's a very short video, but we're going to check out Dale Jr.'s 2001 appearance on MTV Crib. I'm sure I watched at the time, and I haven't watched in years. It's only 5 minutes, so we're gonna watch that. So that'll be that. So yeah, so like as mentioned, Bristol's coming up this weekend, and both Truelove and I will be at it. Now, Ashley, you'd planned on this for months. I mean, this was always on your calendar. Me, not so much.
No.
So I'll dox him because you're all going to know who he is on Sunday or Saturday. Our friend of the show, Kyle Ayala, he's a buddy of mine that he originally from Columbus, and he just recently moved to the Charlotte area. And he works for Bass Pro and Cabela's. And, a few weeks ago, he kind of mentioned in passing to me, he's like, hey, I just entered this raffle at work to win tickets to the Bristol race. And, if you got one for me, I'm down to go. And I thought when he told me about this that, as part of the whole, Bass Pro sponsoring the race, he said something about like, oh, we'll get a victory lane photo. I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, he won that raffle. And not only is he getting the victory lane pick, but Kyle is going to be giving the Start Your Engines command for the race.
Hell yeah.
So he'll be on TV again. He's going to be on TV, his name and everything. So I'm not doxing him now because you'll all see him in a few days. But
you better tell him to let it rip. Better be a good one.
He needs to be practicing that big time.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing. I was talking about this with my buddy Greg, and he mentioned that it would be incredibly hard to not say "start your fucking engines," and I'm like, yes, well, I 100% feel that way, and I apologize to Kyle when I put that idea in his head. So I'm hoping he's practicing a good command. Kyle's a young guy and he's got energy, so I'm sure he'll give a good one. But so I will say this also: if we do end up getting the victory lane pick, and God forbid. If
Corey LaJoy wins.
Somehow Corey LaJoy or Austin if Corey LaJoy or Austin Dillon somehow pull this race off, I might have to pull a Tim Richmond photobomb in the victory lane photo. I might have to. So
you're gonna get Kyle fired from his job.
I feel like he'll appreciate it though. We'll see. But I don't think either one of those two are going to win. Yeah, I
don't think so either. Not at Bristol.
I won't be bummed if it's Denny or whoever, but we'll see what happens. But
tune in this weekend and see Brian's carrot on television. We'll see if he needs the medicine or not, but that's going to be out there, folks.
But I'm very excited. I've only been to Bristol once for the dirt race. Ashley and I went a couple years ago, so to finally get to go to a night race. So this is not only like I think it's my first playoff race, and not to mention the fact it's a cutoff race. It's a very big one. So, this tire stuff, nobody knows what's going to happen. I'm super excited. I'll be there. Ashley will be there tomorrow. I'll be there Friday for the Xfinity, and doing a bunch of shopping on Saturday during the day. So, if you don't follow me on Twitter already, I always post the shirts I'm wearing so you can find me. I'll be floating around all weekend. Yeah, we also have sweet tickets for Saturday night, which
damn,
I've never gone to a race in a suite, so I know it's going to be a nice experience. It's also going to be weird. Like, I've never gone to a race in that setting, so I don't know what it'll be like.
Watching a race from indoors,
Yeah, I've been to the suite once in Charlotte, and I was in there for like 10 minutes. I was like, nope, this is too weird. I don't like glass being between me. I can't smell the smells. It was too weird for me, so I went back to the grandstands.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine I'll be bouncing around. I have no idea where we'll be sitting, so I'll have to we'll figure it out as far as where you guys are sitting. Where are you sitting for Saturday night?
I don't have tickets, so I have VIP passes, so I'm just gonna go find empty seats so I can.
So you'll probably end up in the suite with us. You'll end up in the suite with us at some point, probably.
So.
Okay, so you'll be with us. That's fine. Is Saturday is Friday night just general admission? I'm assuming, or they seated?
I feel like Friday night is assigned seats, but
I feel like every Bristol race is general admission now.
Yeah, I mean it's still. I mean it's Xfinity, so it's not just gonna be. Even though it's Dale Jr., it's still not gonna be sold out. So I'm sure we'll be sitting with you for that race. So.
Yeah. There was plenty of seats last year, so.
Well, that's where Ashley and I will be this weekend, so hopefully you'll run into us and send us a DM or whatever if you want to meet up somewhere, because we'll be there.
Yeah, Brian's a good guy. I can officially say that now since we've actually met in person.
Yes.
So yeah,
and I'm also much more awkward in person, especially when it's with people I don't. I am a whole lot quieter than I am on the show. So
I mean, you got dropped into the hornet's nest at Eldora with Crabtree showing up immediately. So, but he was mellow that day. So
he was like I said, he was very nice. He wants to hang out with me, so that's nice.
You guys go to jail together after you show your dick on TV. But...
Well, anyway, Rob, are you doing any NASCAR, any racing stuff this weekend, or are you watching us on TV?
I'm just watching it from home. Like I said, I got some band stuff to do this weekend, and I'll be watching it from Scooters North down here in my basement. And again, I love a nice little Saturday night down here, drinking some cold beers with the TV on. It's the default setting. I won't be going to the racetrack until Thompson in a few weeks. Like I said, my season for actually going to the racetrack is rapidly winding down, as it is for everybody else, but it sucks to only have a couple left, and I'm sure I'll end up at a couple other places, but yeah, this weekend is an off weekend for me. I've been out and about for what feels like 3 years now, so I'm excited to sit at home and enjoy it on television for once.
Yeah, it's
rather with you guys,
short
though, I'll
notice.
say that. So
yeah, it would be one of these years we'll all go to a race together.
We have to do it.
Like I said, it was short notice for me. I only learned about this last week, so thankfully I'm only like 6.5 hours from the track, so it's not a bad drive.
Yeah.
Plenty of room at Farmer Bob's for you.
Nice.
Thankfully I have an actual house to sleep in.
He's going to be sleeping on Rick Hendrick's yacht this weekend.
I'll be passed out in front of Michael Waltrip's brewery at some point.
The SS Liberty University.
We never talked about this in the show, but when Truelove and I went to Bristol a couple years ago, we before the race on Sunday, we went to his brewery and
we had Easter brunch.
We had Easter brunch, and within 2 minutes of getting out of the car, like, oh, there's Michael right there, and he recognized Truelove right away.
Hey. That was a little more Ken Schrader than And Mikey.
Easter brunch with his family, drinking very early.
I was gonna say, what is he like, working the hostess stand or some shit?
He pretty much was.
He more or less was. Yeah, he was kind of bouncing around talking.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I won't be going there.
No.
But yeah, anyways, as always, you can follow us on Meet Me at Applebee's on Instagram, Meet Me at the Bees on Twitter. I am Speedway Screens on all the things, speedwaytsj.etsy.com, and like I said, I will be doing a lot of shopping on Saturday at the Gypsy Tents and the flea market up the street. So say hi if you see me or if you're at the track. What about you, True Love? What are your plugs?
It's Snake Mountain _ True Love. I probably won't have service at the track, so hit me up today if you're gonna be there.
Or just throw a rock up to the suite window. And get their attention.
You stand out a lot more than I do as far as being recognizable. So
I've got my outfit I've got planned for Dale Jr. Day is brightly colored, so
2
can't
pairs
miss
of
it.
jeans and a big old winter jacket. So
Let's just say it's full Hellman's colors, head to toe.
nice. Oh, you say Hellman's. This reminds me of the Mayo Missile T-shirt that Junior Motorsports actually released. It says
Did
it
you
right
buy
there
that one?
on the front. No, I didn't. It's disgusting. I sent it to my wife, and she just sent back you. It's gross.
well, I mean they
Slather
had
your crooked carrot and Hellman's man.
Mayo Missile. It's a family sport, goddammit. Yeah, Rob Motes _ unofficial is my Instagram handle. I don't really do anything on Twitter. Band's called These Wild Plains, and yeah, nothing really going on that front right now. But yeah, I'll be watching from home and sending these guys DMs they won't read until probably Tuesday of next week.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good weekend, though. I'm really excited for you guys. Again, wish I could be there for that, and we'll make it happen at some point. Hopefully at Bristol, because that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah. Hopefully Andy Newsom ends up on the broadcast
Yeah.
at some point.
Yes.
So,
He better if Denny wins this fucking race.
oh Lord. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, he probably will.
Cool, folks. Well, with that, it looks like the check is here. So thank you for once again joining us at Applebee's, and we will talk to you next week.